Officers, this is the gentleman that was accosting me when I had a 2-month-old baby in my hand. You came in my personal space.
And then I immediately stepped away. Congressman Santos, what are you doing? What are you doing to call for the end of Israeli?
What are you doing about terrorists destroying Israel? What about the terrorists from Hamas that tried to defend in this building? It's abhorrent. It is abhorrent that you are in this building stepping up for terrorists. You are a terrorist sympathizer. You are human scum. Human scum. I do not care. You are human. You are human scum. That's what you are. Human scum. You have no business in this building defending terrorists. The fact that we have terrorist sympathizers in this building is unacceptable. They cannot be allowed to. What is happening in Israel is absolutely not. The fact that we have terrorist sympathizers in this building is unacceptable. They should not be allowed in here. What is happening in Israel is abhorrent. That's what it is. And the next time he tries to accost me with a child in my hand, I want him out of here. He's an animal. I am holding a child. He is a fucking terrorist sympathizer.
Who?
We're going to look at the video.
Mr. Santos, who?
What happened?
Congressman Santos, who?
The gentleman back there is a terrorist sympathizer that has no business in this building. What is happening in Israel is abhorrent. What is happening to the people of Israel should not be defended. Nobody defending Hamas has any business in this building, whether you're elected, whether you're a civilian. It is a disgrace that we allow people to parade that kind of thought in here.
Welcome. It is our Friday early evening show, 13 October, year of our Lord 2023. Bibi Netanyahu addressed the nation as the special forces element moves in to Gaza. Of course, massive rallies all over the world against that. In fact, Nelson, we played in the earlier hour, Nelson Mandela's grandson leading a massive rally. Want to go in Capitol Hill. It's on a knife's edge. Congressman Santos, George Santos of New York 3, joins us. Sir, that is going viral. Can you explain to our audience what exactly happened? The early part of this, where you had your staffers, I guess, baby in your arms, we couldn't get video of. Walk us through exactly what happened and what got you so worked up.
Hi, Steve. Well, thanks for having me. So it's already contentious here. We're trying to find our speaker, and one of my staffers had a baby in, and I just went over to show him to another member. And as I'm doing that, that man and that woman decided to pin me up against a wall as I'm holding a child and literally pointing fingers in my face as I'm defenseless and can't defend myself, talking about Israel being terrorists and killing people in the Palestines. Quite frankly, the man was here defending the actions of Hamas that killed 260 festival goers on a surprise attack and has led to over 1,000 Jews being killed in Israel in the first 24 hours of that conflict. The man was here defending terrorism in the halls of Congress, the same halls that we have people walking around to defend this nation and this world from terrorists just 22 years after the 9/11 attacks in New York City. I won't stand for it, Steve. Not on my watch.
Did he actually say or tell you, or the woman told you, is he actually Jewish?
I have no clue who he is. Quite frankly, I don't give a rat's ass who he is, what he is. He has no business in here. If you walk in here, you can tell me you're Jesus Christ incarnate, but if you're going to peddle pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist talking points, you can get out of here. You have no right. I don't even care if you're elected or a civilian. The fact that I have colleagues on the other side of the aisle peddling pro-terrorist commentary in here is a disgrace. Just think about it this way. Every single member of the Republican Party that does not support funding an endless bottom pit of money to Ukraine is called a terrorist, that we're sympathizers of Vladimir Putin, when that's absolutely not true. But when we have members of the squad, including Cori Bush, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, literally saying that they support Palestine and that there should be a ceasefire, are you kidding? After they take heinous actions of terror on peaceful Israelis? They're the terrorist sympathizers. These are the terrorists in our own body. The enemy is within, Steve. We're living in an America where we have the enemy legislating in Congress.
Congressman Santos, isn't it, they're out front, but isn't it true that over on the more radical side of the Democratic Party in the House, which is at least 50% of them, that sentiment runs a lot deeper than just the squad?
Of course it does. You have Jamal Bowman, Pramila Jayapal, and a whole bunch of others. Look, just this week, Shri, the member from Michigan, resigned from the DSA. Then his Palestinian comms director comes out and starts smearing him with the help of the infrastructure of the alt-right. And here's the deal. Shri is a pretty far left-leaning member of this body. But even for him, the actions of Hamas and the support Hamas is receiving from the DSA was too much. Then from within his own infrastructure, he gets blown up. That's how deep it runs, Steve. They're staffers, they're members, they're all over the place. It is a dangerous, dangerous place to be when we know that in the body that we serve to protect us from foreign foes, adversaries, and terror, we have terrorist organization sympathizers.
Congressman, a lot of people at home don't know this, but when you go over into Congress, if you can get through the screening of weapons or whatever, you have all sorts of types wandering these halls right now, don't you?
You do. Look, the fact that it's 2023, 22 years after 9/11, and I had to stomach today being called a day of jihad, going through security of protocols, going through all sorts of briefings for safety for myself and my staff. The fact that this is the United States and we need to worry about a day that celebrates extremism and that it celebrates terrorist extremism, that is insane. That is abhorrent. That is vile. And the fact that they're allowed to walk these halls of Congress and accost members of Congress while we're trying to do our job is even worse. What you saw there in that open of yours, Steve, was me reaching my tipping point when this man tells me, F that baby. What about the babies in Palestine? Are you kidding me? I don't care. Palestine and Gaza, they've been brewing hate and fomenting terrorism for decades. They breed hate, hatred towards Israelis, hatred towards Jews. We have seen the videos. We have seen what is coming out of there. If I have a staffer of mine that just came back from Europe and there's no FCC controlling and censoring what makes it to television there, what he was having access to would really be important for Americans to start. We should be laxing the FCC regulations so we can actually see what is happening in Israel, the carnage that Hamas and the Palestinians are causing, backed by Iran. And I'm pretty sure the CCP's money is all over this, because there's no way that the Hamas and the Palestinians had the ability to pull this off without any help from Iran, any help from the CCP. This is all interconnected. I will bet, and I'm not much of a betting man, but I will bet that there's their fingerprints all over the place on this.
Listen, given the historic nature of New York with 9/11 and before that with trying to take down the it was in 93 trying to take down the World Trade Center with a bomb, and you've seen these, quite frankly, I'm shocked, mass rallies down in Times Square and throughout New York City. Have you requested, or the other members of the Republican delegation in New York requested any type of briefing about DHS, about what they are doing right now to make sure that people on Long Island and in Manhattan, in all the boroughs are safe during, because it's only going to get worse as the IDF starts to go into Gaza. They've already requested 1.1 million Palestinians or Gazans get to the south of Gaza. Egypt's cut off the border, so people are going to be jammed up. The images are obviously going to be, how do I say this, quite brutal. What's going to happen to residents, American citizens in the greater New York City area?
Well, here's the deal, Steve. We've received a classified briefing, joint classified briefing the other day. The reality is the information given there and the requests we've made, I have very little faith that this president is capable enough at this point to do his job. The fact that I have a friend of mine, a good colleague, an honorable man in Corey Mills doing the president's job for him and evacuating constituents from all of our congressional districts out of Israel right now should tell you everything you need to know. But here's something I can tell you. If the FBI stopped persecuting all the MAGA supporters and all Republicans and actually start doing their job and trying to find out where did this flyer come from? Who are the sympathizers? Who are the rally organizers? That's where they're going to find cells. That's where they're going to find a hotbed of terrorism within the walls and the confinements of this country. That's how they're going to find all the terrorists coming in through the southern border that we already know 200 were apprehended, but how many more made it through without apprehension? That's what the FBI should focus on, and then dump them onto the DOJ and have the DOJ prosecute these people and put them where they belong, in a deep, dark hole in Guantanamo Bay where they're never going to be seen or heard of from again. But instead, we have this administration trying to commute sentences of terrorists involved on 9/11. We have this administration releasing political prisoners from Iran and conceding $6 billion of money to flush their coffers. You can't convince me that the $6 billion being released doesn't impact the decision of Iran to divert some of their money, cash on hand, to other activities, because they know they can go dip into $6 billion to cover for where they're uncovering. That's just the reality of what we're dealing with, Steve. Nobody is serious. The FBI isn't acting seriously. If the FBI wanted to act serious, they would put above all, they would put safety and national security above all the other political nonsense that we're witnessing right now in this country.
Congressman, Eric Adams went to Mexico, went down to Central America, but really didn't make a very compelling case. New York City still a sanctuary city. Todd Bensman tells us the numbers are being reworked from September. 400,000. That would be 40 combat divisions came across the southern border. Hezbollah is very active in Central America and in Latin America. You look at the Roosevelt Hotel, you look at Midtown Manhattan. Are you confident that DHS has their hands on top or really understands what's going on with just the illegal alien invaders that have come across the border in the last couple of months?
Absolutely not. Look, the reality is, and truth and honesty is, nobody has a hand on anything. You can't get a single person in the federal government, myself included, to answer you that question. Do you know why? Because it's an unmitigated disaster, self-inflicted by this president, self-inflicted by his weak administration, and the weakest person we could have seen ahead of this, which is Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who does nothing, has a dereliction of duty, should be impeached, should have been impeached months ago. I have no understanding why the first thing on the docket of Jim Jordan when he becomes speaker should be to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. The proof is there. It holds to be self-evident. There's no way that they can defend this. He should be removed from office immediately and replaced with somebody competent. And as far as all the migrants in New York City and Eric Adams, I give him a little credit for trying, but he's not trying hard enough. He needs to end the sanctuary city state and policy for both New York City and get the governor to agree for the state. The fact that tonight we have a city member in custody for lawfully carrying her firearm in New York City should tell you everything you need to know about where the priorities of this government lies.
Your constituents, where are their heads on this right now? Your district is a bellwether. It's loaded with patriots and hardworking Americans. Where's their head right now on the war in the Middle East and how it relates to border security and the invasion of our southern border?
Look, Steve, I represent the district that is 38% Jewish in population, right? I represent a district that is fairly affluent. It's the most affluent district in the state by far. It was one of the top 4 most affluent in the country. The reality is these are hardworking Americans who work hard to attain everything they have and own. They just want peace and prosperity, but instead they've been dealt high inflation, high taxes, 7,500 migrants in my district and counting. I have a tent city in Belrose, Queens, with at least 1,149 men, bodily able men that can be a cell on their own and activate at any moment. And we don't know who they are, where they've come from. All we know is that they're seeking asylum, and we know that at least 85% of them won't even qualify for asylum. This is what the Biden administration has done. NY3 does not want this. Look, I can have all the problems in the world, but the one thing you'll never take away from me is I know my district. I know what my constituents want. I'm out there with them. I am the only member of Congress in New York City that is out there in the fray with them, protests, going to these facilities, trying to shut them down, taking motions along with the constituents to stop and heal and make it slow down the process of growing and spreading these nonsensical policies. But the problem is I'm alone. There is a uniparty out there that all they care about is lining their own pockets, specifically on Long Island. The corruption runs deep there. It's all about money when it comes to that. They don't care about the quality of life. So those are the challenges we have ahead of us. NY3 does not want this nonsense in the southern border. NY3 does not support what's going on in the Middle East.
Congressman, what's your social media, your website? How do people find out more about you and more about everything you're doing up in NY3?
Steve, you can find me on Getter, Twitter, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, at Rep. George Santos, and I'm all over there. And just come on, engage, and thank you for having me on the show. This is all about taking back our country. This is about fighting for what's right and to calling out what these people truly are. Don't let them fool you. These are terrorist sympathizers. If you sympathize for Palestine, you sympathize for Hamas. And if you do that, you're a terrorist sympathizer.
Congressman Santos, thank you very much for joining us on a Friday night.
Thank you, Steve.
Things are running a little hot over there in the House. Tim Burchett's going to join us in a little while. Also out in Park City, Utah, Trent Staggs is going to tell us about this conference that Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan had to stop Trump. I want to go now. I got EJ. Finally got EJ. Antoni couldn't get him this morning. EJ. We've been so wrapped up this afternoon. There's so much going on up here with the Jordan situation, with the House Speaker, what's going on in Israel. I have not had a chance to check. Did the federal government ever put out their numbers, sir?
No, Steve, they haven't. And not only that, I actually reached out to the Fiscal Service earlier today and still haven't gotten a response from them. So we'll see. But what I find funny here, Steve, is that if you really wanted to try to bury some really bad news, what would you do? Well, you'd probably release it at about 5 p.m. on a Friday. Well, we just passed that, and we still haven't gotten any numbers yet. But what's also strange is the fact that if you go through the daily statements that are put out by the Fiscal Service of the Treasury, you can effectively compile, it'd be a lot of work, but you could effectively compile your own monthly statement. So we already have a pretty good estimate of what these figures are going to look like, and they're not good. But it begs the question, why on earth is the Treasury stalling like this?
Let's go to this. Tell the audience the things we've been tracking, because we want to get the receipts. We want any more happy talk. The report that you're looking for, what is it specifically?
So, Steve, this is a monthly statement that is put out by the Treasury. It details all of the money coming into the federal government and all of the money going out. So it's going to show us where exactly money is being spent. Now, it doesn't give you, for example, where every single cent is spent. It's not going to tell you who got Social Security checks, but it will tell you how much the Social Security Administration as a whole is spending. And what we've seen the last several months now is that the interest payments on the debt, according to this statement, have gotten so large that they have eclipsed all but two line items in the budget, one of which is the Social Security Administration, and then the other is the Department for Health and Human Services. So that gives, I think, a size of scope as to just how bad this problem has gotten, the interest on the debt, how much it is costing us to finance our borrowing as a government.
Hold on, hang on a second. You're saying because the HHS would be some sort of combination, maybe Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security. Are you telling me that the interest payments already are up at that level? Because those are the mandatory expenditures. Those are the biggest expenditures that we make.
Oh, Steve, that's a great question. So, no, Medicare and Medicaid are going to be broken out separately. And in fact, they themselves are going to have multiple line items. For example, there is no single line item for defense. You would have to take multiple line items and add those together to get the entire bloated defense budget. So when you're talking about these individual line items, you're talking about smaller organizations within larger branches, larger sections of the executive branch typically.
Why is this so important for us? Why have we made such a big deal about looking at this? Why have you said we got to get to the receipts? Why is it so important?
Steve, because our current path is completely unsustainable. I mean, a lot of times federal finances can be very ethereal, and it's difficult to try to actually get your mind around them. So if you just think about this in terms of family finances instead, this is the equivalent of a family racking up tons and tons of credit card debt, much more than they actually earn. And they are in a position where they can't actually pay it back. In fact, it's gotten so bad that the amount of money that they can put towards their essential bills and then also towards the interest charges on this debt is less than what they actually owe. In other words, they can't even pay the interest on the debt. It's going to continue growing larger and larger, even if they stop using the credit card entirely today. That's where the federal government is. We have spent so much money and racked up so much debt that we can't even afford the interest.
I want to make sure people understand this. We're never going to pay off a penny of the principal, and we keep adding to that. We're going to have our back against the wall, even to pay the debt, even to pay the debt service on this. And as it grows, it's going to be even a bigger struggle. It's going to consume everything. The other thing, EJ, I want to make sure we get to is that even selling the bonds right now, because the market is so concerned about interest rates having to increase, although we're paying now numbers we haven't paid in 20 or 30 years for the 10-year treasuries, the long bond, etc. Treasury's having a very difficult time selling the bonds. The reason is bond buyers are concerned that if interest rates go up, the face amount of the bond will be worth less. And there's a bloodbath in the bond market. This is what happens in these crises when one problem rolls over to the other. They're inextricably linked, and you get inexorably drawn into essentially what a bankruptcy is. If you were a company that couldn't print your own money, this nation is a classic bankruptcy case, sir.
Right. And speaking of bankruptcy, a lot of people don't realize there are a lot of banks that have gone under this year, and we have a lot more that are teetering. But you know what the first bank that was insolvent was? It was the Federal Reserve. It's sitting on about $1 trillion of unrealized losses on its balance sheet. And so this idea that somehow things are contained, they're not. They are very much systemic. And to your point, Steve, on these bonds, how much they have lost value. If you bought a government bond when interest rates were at the rock bottom in 2020, those bonds today have lost about half of their value. I mean, people have just been absolutely decimated by this. If you're a retiree or a would-be retiree and you had a large amount of your portfolio, your savings, your investments in bonds, those things have gotten absolutely crushed right now. And the only hope you have is that they don't default.
This is what I call a quasi default, because you would think when a guy tells you, hey, this part of your portfolio is going to be full of government securities that it's impossible to default because we're never going to default, as we've talked here about the debt ceiling many times. Even if we breach the debt ceiling, we're always going to pay off the interest. The problem is because the Biden inflation, we call these Biden bonds. The principle, as interest rates go, they have to refinance higher interest rates. People buy those. The face amount of the bond you can sell starts to drop. What EJ is saying, there's a whole category of bonds that are 50% of face amount. You've lost half your money, but people are sitting there going, how can I lose my money on a government bond, right? It's got those interest rates. And this is what EJ brought up last week. Not only do we have $2 trillion of new deficits we have to finance just in this year, we have $8 trillion that rolls over that we have to refinance at higher rates. Nobody's speaking the truth to the American people. That's why EJ is all over us. We want to get the cash. And the reason I want to is that all these clowns, McHenry and all these guys, cut this deal. And all they were talking about is $5 trillion coming in of taxes, revenues, tariffs, all of it. That number is not going to be $5 trillion. That's why they're holding the number back. And if I'm correct tonight at about 10 o'clock, they're going to put that number up. They're going to bury this late at night on a Friday, on a weekend. And you're going to see my number, EJ, is still, I think they barely got to $4.5 trillion. of revenues, of essentially tax revenues, and that's because transactions have slowed down, and I think capital gains taxes are way off. But that's mine. EJ, I thank you for being the Hawkeye on this thing. Where do people go to get all your social media, all your analysis?
Best place to find me is going to be on X. The handle is @RealEJ_Antoni.
EJ, thank you so much. Honored to have you on here, brother. Thanks.
Pleasure's all mine.
For 5,000 years of, in fact, I'll have EJ on next week. We'll talk this through about gold more, particularly about what happened over that weekend in 1971 up at Camp David when Richard Nixon and his team, they stopped the convertibility of the Federal Reserve note into gold at $35 an ounce. I want you to go to Birch Gold right now. Ask Philip Patrick and the team the simple question. Why has gold been a hedge against turbulent times for 5,000 years of mankind's history? You need to know it. Right now, you need to go to Birch Gold. They've got tax-free IRAs, 401ks, all types of instruments that can help you get precious metals in your portfolio to be a bulwark against the turbulence ahead, because we are going to go through some choppy water. I know you've been with the show for a couple of years, said, hey, we've gone through a lot of choppy water. You ain't seen nothing yet, folks. We're going to be back in a moment. Put you inside the room with Congressman Tim Burchett.
House Republicans have chosen to triple down on the chaos, triple down on the dysfunction, and triple down on the extremism.
That was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries just a few moments ago, reacting to how, amid a global crisis that is unfolding in the Middle East, the U.S. House of Representatives remains leaderless and in chaos, with no end in sight to their manufactured mayhem. Last hour, the Republican House caucus elected MAGA loyalist Jim Jordan as their next speaker designee. That was after Steve Scalise, who the Republicans had elected as speaker designee just 2 days ago, bowed out amid attacks about his health. He didn't secure enough votes to win anyway. If all this sounds eerily familiar, it's because it is. It happened in January. It's still very much unclear whether Jim Jordan has the votes he would need to win a floor vote to become the Speaker of the House after 55 Republicans said they would vote against him in a full House floor vote. Joining our coverage, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale, also joining us, former congressman from Florida and MSNBC political analyst David Jolly. Ali, they're getting weird, right?
Okay, Memphis, when my voice starts, that's when you take it down, but thank you. Congressman Tim Burchett's going to join us now. Congressman, Jim Jordan was the designee. Then he asked for a validation vote, up or down, only got to 155. He's quite short. Tell us what's going on in the struggle sessions the last couple of days. And I think you've been a big Jim Jordan supporter. What's going to happen over the weekend?
Well, I think that was done to bring his numbers up because he was running against another guy. There's a lot of open wounds, but I would encourage people to call their congressman and encourage them along towards Jim Jordan. I don't think they got to be combative. Just say, we really like Jim. He's good for the grassroots, because he is a base Republican, and our base, I think, is really been feeling kind of left out, I think. We love Jim Jordan. We love the Jim Jordan 101 a lot better than we love the Jim Jordan 102. There's McCarthy's buddy. He's up on Hannity giving gobbledygook about a CR that's going to roll into January. He's talking about funding Ukraine. He's open to, is this Jordan that people are going to vote for? Is this going to be the fighter that everybody that knows and loves Jim and his Congressman Jordan had worked with him for years? Are we going to see this new version strikes people as odd, and particularly CR, the debt, you got the border. There's now, the number's been redone for September, 400,000 illegal alien invaders that came across. And that's 40, as your father could tell you, that's 40, Tim, he'd say young Tim, that's 40 combat divisions. So is Jordan the guy? Is he a guy, you know him personally, you're part of that inner circle. Is Jordan going to give us the fight we need? He is. I always think of my daddy telling me stories about that, stuff like that, when he would
remember he told me about hitting the beach on Peleliu. Probably nobody's ever heard of Peleliu, but it was one of the bloodiest battles the entire Pacific. It was supposed to be a 3-day mop up, and it was over 20 days of combat, and it was brutal. And Daddy said, he was going in on that amphib, and he looked at the front. There's this cocky guy up front talking about all he was going to do, and he looked in the back, and there was a guy in his helmet, crushing out a cigarette, and just kind of muttering to himself, maybe praying. And Dad said, "That's the guy I'm going in with." And I think that is the Jim Jordan. I think he can rally the troops. He's as smart as anybody in Congress, but but I think ultimately it's the original recipe. Jim Jordan is who we're going to get, and he's gonna rally the base. He's going to take the fight to the Senate. He'll take the fight to the White House, and that's really what we've got to have. We have got to have that, and the status quo crowd, my daddy would call them the Chamber of Commerce crowd. They're not going to be for Jim Jordan. They don't like Jim Jordan. He's too tied to Trump, or he's too conservative. He's too this. But you just look at your previous guest from the Heritage Foundation. We're taking in somewhere around $4 to $5 trillion a year, spending $7 trillion, and that's the conservative principles that this party, that this country and this party have fallen on. And we've got to get somebody to right that ship. And I don't think there's anybody else in Congress could do it any than Jim Jordan. I kind of wish.
How can McHenry send you guys home for the weekend? Although the Senate's not around, we're burning daylight on getting those appropriations done. Is in McHenry right now? Politico's reporting McHenry's trying to cut a deal with the Democrats. They would go 15. They would name him speaker, and all the moderates would come together. He would do it at 15 days at a time, and he'd do a big old CR. He'd get ready for an omnibus. He'd get Ukraine funding in there. What's the mentality of these guys like McHenry? Are they true conservatives, or is this just all happy talk?
I think they want to stay in power. I think the swamp is talking, and it's talking pretty loud. But I would like to hear from the base, the grassroots. Don't waste your time calling me or sending me an email on the issue. I think I know where we need to be. I mean, our choice will be between Hakeem Jeffries and Jim Jordan. That's the choice. You have a group of folks that are literally Marxist. I mean, they want to see everything. They want our guns. They want our freedom. And they sure as hell want our tax dollars. And they will continue to get that until we stop them. And this will stop them. We have got to take back the House. We've got to get it in conservative hands. And this is our best shot right now.
How do you go from 155 to get to 217? You're back on Monday afternoon, Monday evening, and then Tuesday in living color. You're going to do this. No more anonymous votes. How are you working with Jordan going to get him to 217?
I think that the first vote, honestly, I don't think he gets there. I don't think anybody gets the magic number. And then when people see how they're, I think we take a break and people hear from home, and people back home will say, this is enough. We have got to take the country back. And I can't say that with any more sincere or honesty, because Mr. Bannon, I really think we are very close to losing our country. If you're seeing the protests that are going on right now in this country, on our college campuses and around, this is something that is just, it's not organic. It didn't just happen out of people's frustration or something. They said, oh, let's go this is planned. And we got to realize the southern border is wide open. And these folks, the people that we caught that are on the terrorist watch list, literally ought to scare the hell out of you. But it's the ones we didn't catch that are out there. And our State Department, our White House, and others have been compromised. Well, I feel like people that are Iranian sympathizers. And they are legitimately not good people. And we have got to realize what's going on. And if we don't take control of this thing, it's all going to hit us at once. It ain't going to matter if the House is out of session for 2 days or 3 days, because this White House is inept. and we got to have somebody that can stand up to them. And Jim Jordan is the best choice.
Congressman Burchett, what's your social media? I know people are going to want to follow you, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to try to make contact with you over the weekend because this vote couldn't be any more important on Tuesday. Where do people get you?
At Tim Burchett is the best one. That's my good one. That'll give me the Bannon bump, as I always get when I'm on with you. And I appreciate you, brother. Oh, I don't want everybody to pile
into this right now.
I don't know what it is about the women and or the ladies in these rural districts, but they just love you. Everywhere I go, out in these rural communities, they always see you on. They see me on with you, and they go, "Oh, do you know Steve Bannon?" I go,
well, thank you. We love the audience. We love the posse, and we love all the folks out there. Whenever I pile into the social media of Congressman Burchett, there's going to be a big weekend. A lot going on as IDF moves into Gaza, and also the firestorm. That people are going home to either have town halls or meet with constituents. We want everybody to load up here talking about Congressman Jim Jordan. Thank you, Congressman Burchett. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Be positive. Be positive.
Thank you, brother. 202-225-3121. That's the switchboard up at the House. Call your local congressman. Find out if they're going to have a town hall, or find out how you can sit down and give them the old what for. If you're for Jim Jordan and we want the 1.0 version, not in love too much with the 2.0 version that was working with McCarthy. If Jim Jordan would take on the DC insider cartel uniparty, he would be a blowaway, easy winner for the speakership. But that's where everybody's kind of, this weekend is going to decide this, I think. He's President Trump's endorsement. President Trump endorsed Jim a week ago Thursday, so he's been it for a while. Now it's Jim's turn in the barrel. Trent Staggs joins us now from out in Utah. Before I get to the Mitt Romney, Trent, you're running for the Senate, and so far you're doing a pretty good job. If you were in the Senate, would you force McConnell and Schumer, these guys? Why is the Senate not here? Why are they traveling throughout the world on these congressional delegations that go on, Europe and hanging out when they have not passed an appropriations bill yet, sir? Can you explain that to me?
Well, it's because it's part of their, they aren't listening to the American people. I mean, that's part of the problem that we have here. It's we've had for far too long. We have a ruling elite that's more concerned about maintaining power, being part of their club, than actually doing what's right for the American people. And that's what I've noticed as I've gone around the state. It's just people are sick and tired of it. They said enough is enough. We have to get true conservatives, constitutional conservatives in office, people that are going to work for us, for the American people, finally, instead of just concerned about themselves and enriching themselves and maintaining power. That has now brought the country literally to the brink. They should be there in D.C. They shouldn't be off just hobnobbing and doing everything outside of what they've been actually elected to do, which is to represent the people and get the job done there.
And individual senators have enormous power. I mean, the Senate, each individual is much more empowered than in the House, where it really takes a committee chairmanship or being leadership. You're committing to the people now, when you get in, that there's going to be regular order, no more games. These appropriations bills are going to be done individually, and so people can see exactly what the horse trades are in each of these bills?
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked to our senior senator, our great Senator Mike Lee, extensively about this, and that is the problem. It is that we have these continuing resolutions, these omnibus bills. Everything is hidden in there, and this horse trading is going on. It's the law firm, he said, of McConnell, Schumer, McCarthy, and Jeffries, or used to be McCarthy, that would drop this on the desk with 24, 48 hours to go and say, all right, if you don't pass this, the government's shutting down and it's all your fault. I mean, that is just so ridiculous. We need to get back to, yes, the 12 appropriation subcommittees, having bills independently with each one of those, with ample opportunity for debate and amendment, so that everything can be out there, it's transparent, and we get back to regular order and be able to, pass bills that will get us back to some source of fiscal sanity. I mean, to hear Congressman Burchett there talk about the amount of revenue coming in at $4 or $5 trillion and the spending levels at $7 trillion. I mean, I don't need to say that's unsustainable. That's just, it's beyond unsustainable.
If we got back to pre-COVID spending levels, the $5 trillion would cover it. This is the whole fight right now. I mean, these people are out of control. Look, you volunteered to come on a Friday. I know you're doing a ton of stuff, Mayor Staggs. The audience's head's blown up because the guy you forced out of the race, Romney, is out. He's had a 2-day conference, and he couldn't have picked a more beautiful place. Park City, Utah is one of the great towns in this country. He's got Paul Ryan out there, and their whole thing is a stop Trump. And these are Republicans, donors, other senior people in the Republican Party, operatives, consultants, pollsters, because they said it's not in their DNA. It's not in their DNA to accept Trump as a Republican nominee. Can you give us an update and your thoughts and observations?
Well, here we go again, right? I mean, their E2 summit that they had in Park City on Tuesday, like you said, for a couple of days there, that E2 stands for experts and enthusiasts. I mean, the only thing they're expert or enthusiastic about is going against the will of the American people. That, to me, is what is just unbelievable here. Here, President Trump has got, 70%, I think in many polls I've seen, 70% support amongst the Republican Party. And here you have a group of elite billionaires that are out of touch with the American people, and they want to sit in a closed door session, the images of smoke-filled rooms, and be able to just sit there and try to determine how they can stop President Trump. Let's go ahead and do something counter to the will of the American people. That's the problem. Everything we've been talking about here, I think, goes together, where you have this ruling elite that view themselves as the club. They have more loyalty and fidelity to themselves and how they're going to keep power amongst themselves and wealth, enrich themselves, than they are about going out there and supporting the American people. And as you said, we scared Romney out of this race. He knew he was looking at the numbers. He knew that he had very low favorability amongst Utahns here. As we traveled around, they said, "Hey, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." They were not going to be voting for him again. We dropped him down considerably in the polls since we announced and called out his record, reminded people of that constant betrayal to the promises that he made 5 years ago. And so, here we go again, his meeting with closed door sessions in Park City. And that is a beautiful space. I mean, I was just up there last night. We had a town hall in Park City. Many of those Republican delegates that were just so tired of the status quo, and they were just energized to see someone like myself offering an alternative, a true conservative alternative to Mitt Romney, somebody who is much more closely aligned to Senator Lee, who can get back there to DC, and we can finally effectuate the change that we need in this country. I mean, Congressman Burchett, I think, laid it out there. We are on the brink. We are definitely on the brink here. And we've got to have people in DC that have got spine, that have got backbone, and can be able to make these tough decisions. And I look forward to doing that. I really do.
Mayor Staggs, how can people follow you? What's the social media? Where they go to the site? How do they find out more about you and your campaign out there in the great state of Utah?
They can go to TrentStaggs.com, STAGGS, TrentStaggs.com, at Mayor Staggs on social, and we really appreciate the support. I got to say too, Steve, as I'm traveling around, I'm doing my town halls. We've done scores of them. People love you. They love your show. They said, "Hey, I saw you on Bannon." So you've got a great audience here in the state of Utah as well, my friend.
Great. I got to tell you, the folks out in Utah couldn't be any better. That's why it's such a bellwether, and what your campaign's such a bellwether, because the folks in Utah are the backbone of this country. They're just fantastic. So thank you. Glad the Warren Posse is going to your town halls and getting to meet you. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you.
That's what's doing it right now. This audience and the work you're doing right now. And look, a lot of people, Jim Jordan's a good man. Jim Jordan's a solid man. The question is, and this weekend's going to decide it, I think. And Jim Jordan, with your help, pull it together. He's still, 50, 60 votes short. The folks that we deal with a lot have told us the last couple of days, and we'll have more, I think, to report tomorrow morning on it and on Monday. There have been real struggle sessions inside of these House meetings. People really at each other's throats, but this is what it gets down to. We're in extremis right now, and you're going to see it this weekend. You're going to particularly see it as the IDF moves into to Gaza. Look, the people that have been against the same thing they tried to do against Netanyahu, that whole thing they did for months and months and months and months and months about the Supreme Court, that's the exact type of color revolution they've been trying to do here against President Trump. It's the same cast of characters, same playbook. And you're going to see it now. With the ticking time bomb, we have two ticking time bombs in this nation. One is this debt. That's why we're staying up tonight to get you the numbers. They're hiding. The numbers have always, like clockwork, put out. They should have been put out last night about 5 or 6 o'clock. They were not. There's no excuse today why the government has not put these numbers up, except for the fact they're trying to hide something. They're trying to do some accounting to not make it look so bad. I will have it up. Be up on Getter. We're going to be back here live tomorrow morning, live from the nation's capital. There's so much going on, so many dogfights. Of course, we're going to be following the Hamas war very, very closely. Remember, Josh Phillips said it well today. He called it 4 separate wars. I call it one war, the beginning of World War III, on 4 separate fronts. Still, the most important front is the invasion of the United States of America. 2 ticking time bombs, that $33 trillion in debt that increases every second of every day, and the 8 to 10 million illegal alien invaders that are in this country. Make sure you go to My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is a great Utah company. Make sure you check it out today. Be prepared. Also, our sponsors, Home Title Lock. Do not let some cyber criminal get into the records and take your title and get a mortgage on it that you got to pay off from some hard money lender like 12%, because they don't want to hear your tale of woe after it's already been taken. Just go to Home Title Lock today and check it all out. Of course, Birch Gold, so proud of our partnership with Birch Gold, birchgold.com/Bannon. Get the end of the dollar empire. But now I think you need to talk to Philip Patrick and the team. We're in turbulence. You need to know how to make gold part of your retirement and to make gold part of the assets that you invest in. It's time now to take a look and find out why gold, for 5,000 years of man's recorded history, has always been the anchor to windward. And you're going to need it because, folks, we're going to go through turbulent times, and we're going to go through it together here in the War Room. I want to thank our incredible audience. You took out a Speaker of the House, first time in American history, about a week, 10 days ago? You took out another one, Scalise. And the determination of whether Jim Jordan will be Speaker or not rests with this audience this weekend. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.